Welcome back to the Vandy Sports Podcast. I'm Joey Dwyer, and Jerry Stackhouse has got his big man. Today, Notre Dame transfer Ven-Allen Lubin committed to Vanderbilt and joins a group of capable front court players, but will probably be the starter and the go-to guy in that unit. And really nice gift for Jerry Stackhouse. Lubin's a former top 100 recruit from Notre Dame who proved it in the ACC, averaged 17 minutes a game, and started 7 of Notre Dame's 28 games. Last season as a freshman, Notre Dame doesn't often start freshmen, especially in the front court. A lot of their freshmen in the front court haven't seen the floor much at all, have redshirted in Notre Dame. Mike Brey had the trust to throw Ven-Allen Lubin into the fire, and to an extent it paid off for him. Notre Dame didn't have a great year, but you definitely saw some things from Ven-Allen Lubin. Had, I think, 19 points against Wake Forest and really held his own against some of the better bigs in the league. Wasn't a go-to scorer for Notre Dame, and I don't know if he'll be that for Vanderbilt, but certainly an effective guy, does the dirty work at a high level, and did a lot of good things for Notre Dame despite being a little undersized at the 5 at 6'8". Really held his own with some of the league's best. And he'll be expected to do that again at Vanderbilt, I think. It's a guy who can play the 4 or the 5. Probably more of a need for him to play the 5 right now. Lee Dort would be their other option there, or Carter Lang, and I think both of them a little raw. I think Carter Lang is probably better suited as a 4 as well, just the needs more there at the 5. And Ven-Allen Lubin's probably going to slide in, be the starting center for Vanderbilt, and I think that's a solid spot to be in compared to where you maybe thought Vanderbilt could be. I think Lubin maybe doesn't have the ceiling of Lee Dort, but is certainly a little more developed at this point in his career, and will probably be the go-to guy, and that's a really nice tandem to have as sophomores. Both have 3 years of eligibility remaining, and both are great athletes, guys who can really hold up physically in the SEC, and both guys who do things like rebounding and shot blocking well. Ven-Allen Lubin grabbed 1.6 offensive rebounds in his freshman season at Notre Dame, 4 rebounds total, along with 6 points and a little under a block a game. Lee Dort maybe didn't have those numbers, so maybe doesn't project to give you as much this year as Ven-Allen Lubin's going to give you, but that's a really nice tandem to have in the future. And I think Ven-Allen Lubin is more of a guy who is going to be a nice complementary piece this year. I think Ezra Manjon and what Vanderbilt has in the backcourt is really going to like having Ven Lubin and above the rim type big man who can catch lobs, get offensive rebounds, and just be kind of an efficient garbage man down there, dirty work type guy who can give you some good things on the offensive end. I think there's more in the tank for him offensively than what we saw at Notre Dame. A lot of what we saw was him being utilized as a roller, him being an offensive rebounder and scoring in those ways, or being dumped down to on the dunker's post and just stepping into a dunk. But I think there's more capability in there for a post-up big, and I think we saw that a little bit his freshman year at Notre Dame. But also, Mike Brey has talked about in the past that this guy who can play on the perimeter a little bit. If you watch some of his AAU tape, it's a different story than when you watch at Notre Dame. I think Lubin was a little bit bigger physically at Notre Dame. I think he put on some muscle once he got there. But when you watch his AAU tape from the summer before he got to Notre Dame, it's a guy who could put it on the floor and get his own shot a little bit out of the perimeter. And a guy who could shoot it a little bit, shot 1 for 11 from 3 at Notre Dame. And I think if Jerry Stackhouse gives him the leash, he'll be a guy who shoots the 3 at a much higher volume than that, and shoots it at a higher clip than he did at Notre Dame. So it's a really exciting prospect on the offensive end. I don't know that if you watch his tape from this year, you'll see a guy who you think is going to be a huge offensive contributor, but I think there's a lot more in there. And at least right now, I think Ezra Manjon is a better point guard than anyone Notre Dame had. So running that pick and roll with him will be really effective for Ven Lubin's career, and I think he's a really nice complementary piece when you have a point guard like Manjon. Again, just an above the rim type big who can catch alley-oops. He can get offensive rebounds and hold up physically, and will do a lot of nice things for you off 1 or 2 bounces around the rim. So 1 or 2 steps, I think could be a really nice piece to this team's success, and a guy who comes in, I think, more physically ready and more developed than Lee Dort. So it takes some of the pressure off Lee Dort, who struggled at times to stay on the floor because of foul trouble. Ven Lubin, I think, only had 1.8 fouls a game last year, so should be able to stay on the floor, and I will acknowledge that he is a little undersized there, but does some really good things on the defensive end. He's a good shot blocker, times it up well, maybe not physically as gifted as Liam Robbins, who felt like had a radius better than anyone else. And I think Robbins, it's easy to compare him to Robbins. I don't think he'll be Liam Robbins, so it's really hard to be a first-team All-ACC guy your sophomore year, but will certainly be an effective big in the league. And I think the word that stands out to me about Ven-Allen Lubin is athleticism and dirty work. I think what makes him so effective is his ability to get on the glass and block shots and guard and just kind of be an energy guy, be all over the place. I think Vanderbilt fans are really going to like to see what they're going to see from Ven-Allen Lubin, just in terms of his ability to be around the ball and be around physical big men and hold his own, even as a underclassman, even as a guy who maybe giving up a few inches of height. I think Ven-Allen Lubin's going to be effective down there, and maybe won't be Liam Robbins, but will certainly be a guy who gives Vanderbilt good minutes and a guy who gives Vanderbilt a lot of minutes throughout the year. Just the shot blocking, I think, is something that might be developed throughout the years, and he's a really good shot blocker for 6'8". I think there might be more in that offensive game than we had expected as well, just because of what we'd seen in high school a few years ago, and even at Notre Dame we saw once in a while when he was given the freedom on a guard-driven team to post up. It often went well, and I think Mike Bray in the past has praised Ven-Allen Lubin's passing out of the post, and he's said in the past that he's comfortable with that. So there's definitely something here in terms of a post-up guy, but for now, really tremendous compliment to Ezra Magnon and potentially Tyron Lawrence. That recruitment seems to be trending well for Vanderbilt, and definitely think if you put together a team with Ezra Magnon at the 1, Tyron Lawrence at the 2, Evan Taylor at the 3, Colin Smith at the 4, Ven-Allen Lubin at the 5, and then off the bench, guys like Paul Lewis, Isaiah West, maybe Darian Ford from Arkansas, who visited Vanderbilt recently, and then Lee Dort and Jason Rivera-Torres, who I'm really high on for a freshman. I think this could be a really solid group, and Ven-Allen Lubin is kind of that missing piece. It felt like Vanderbilt's biggest need in the portal was a center, and Jerry Stackhouse got it with him and got it over some big-time suitors. Miami was a school that came into Ven-Allen Lubin's recruitment as an in-state school. Ven-Allen Lubin's from Orlando. I think they made an NIL offer, and Vanderbilt was certainly capable of matching or exceeding that offer. So I think this recruitment also tells you a bit about where Vanderbilt is in the current state of the sport. A few weeks ago, I don't know that Vanderbilt could have beat out of Miami to give Ven-Allen Lubin, but now feels like they can compete with those type of schools and get guys like this. So really nice gift for Vanderbilt. Anytime you get a former top 100 recruit coming in as a sophomore, after playing effectively in the ACC, you gotta like it. Averaged 6 and 4, was pretty efficient from the field. I think he shot 58% from the field, and really just left because of a coaching change. And Vanderbilt lucked out with this one, getting a really effective guy who's going to give him a lot of good minutes and has plenty of eligibility left. So sky's the limit here with Ven-Allen Lubin, and again, just a really nice gift for Vanderbilt. A guy who maybe isn't the go-to scorer right away. I wouldn't expect him to be a Liam Robbins type offensive piece right away, but it's certainly going to give you some things. I think there's a baseline there with what he's going to give you offensively, just because of the athleticism and the physicality around the rim. He's going to be able to give you some good things, and I don't know that Vanderbilt has a coach that's going to develop him outside of Stackhouse. Michael Curry just departed from the program, but when they get that guy, I think the sky's the limit for Ven-Allen Lubin if he's developed properly. And could be a guy who eventually becomes a go-to scorer if we see some of those things we saw in high school in terms of him putting it on the floor a little bit and really just maturing as a player as he grows physically and grows into a bigger role. But right now could be the piece that puts Vanderbilt over the edge, along with some of those guards that they have. One of the better backcourts in the league if they get Tyron Lawrence back, and if you add Ven-Allen Lubin into that, it's a complementary piece. You got a pretty dang good team, along with some of those shooters on the perimeter with Evan Taylor and Colin Smith. So really like what Vanderbilt's building right now, and it felt like it addressed its biggest need with Ven-Allen Lubin. So again, just a really, really nice gift for Vanderbilt. And now while I shift to Tyron Lawrence and his decision, we'll see. Biggest recruitment of the year for Jerry Stackhouse is one of his own players. If he can get Lawrence, that makes this commitment more effective. It makes Taylor more effective. If you can't get Lawrence, I don't know where this team goes. Maybe Darian Ford comes in and gives you some things, but Tyron Lawrence is the glue of this team. It feels like he's going to be their go-to scorer if he comes back. And if Lawrence doesn't come back, I don't know where this team goes. I don't know if it's an NCAA tournament team, but with Lawrence, certainly got a shot, and Ven Lubin certainly helps you get there as well. So really interesting commitment, especially for me, who covered Ven-Allen Lubin as a recruit. I have a commitment podcast up on Breaking Down Braves Boys about Ven-Allen Lubin from when he committed. It's a little different than this. I think I was more thinking he was going to be a little more perimeter oriented at that point, but he was forced to play the 5 as a freshman at Notre Dame. Held his own. Also played the 4 and did some good things there. I think there's more in the tank for him in terms of stretching the floor and being a perimeter threat, but for now, it was a really nice 5 and a guy who can complement Vanderbilt's guards and other guys as well. So like the fit here with Vanderbilt for Ven-Allen Lubin, and I think he'll have a big opportunity to come in early and give them some good minutes and eventually be a nice tandem with Lee Dort. So thank you guys for watching. God bless. Peace.